So what happens when you take the raw, revolutionary fire from one of the 90s most political bands and you fuse it with the poetic, soulful voice of a grunge icon? I mean, it sounds kind of impossible, right? Like a total clash of titans. But, well, that's exactly what happened. This was the incredibly audacious, high-stakes experiment that gave us Audioslave.
I mean, think about it. On one side, you've got Rage Against the Machine, just this sonic Molotov cocktail, right? All blistering rap, heavy metal, and just pure political fury. Their music was a literal call to arms. And then, on the other side, you have Soundgarden, kind of the introspective heart of the whole grunge scene, totally defined by Chris Cornell's hauntingly beautiful and, let's be honest, often cryptic lyrics. You really couldn't find two bands that were more different, sonically or philosophically.
Okay, so when the instrumental engine of Rage, Tom Morello's totally groundbreaking guitar, Tim Commerford's thundering bass, and Brad Wilk's powerhouse drumming, when they joined forces with the one and only Chris Cornell, the entire music world just kind of held its breath. This was a supergroup of absolutely epic proportions. And the question on everyone's mind was pretty simple, but also super complex. Could this incredibly volatile combination actually work? The term supergroup itself, it comes with a lot of baggage, right? So many of them are just these overhyped publicity stunts that fizzle out super fast. They fail to create a sound that's anything more than just, the sum of their famous parts. And Audioslave's early struggles were real. So real, they couldn't even settle on a name. They kicked around the name Civilian for a bit. And then get this, Chris Cornell suggested Audioslave, and later admitted he thought it was kind of lame at first. It just goes to show you how tough it was to even figure out what this new thing was supposed to be.
So really, it all came down to this one crucial question. Could the raw, revolutionary power of Rage's instrumentals truly merge with the soaring, soulful poetry of Chris Cornell? Could they create something totally new, something singular? Or was this whole experiment just destined to be a high-profile mess, a clash of titans that would just end up sounding, off balance?
Well, the answer to that question, it definitely didn't come overnight. This was a process. Forging a new identity was this public evolution, a whole sonic journey that played out across their first two albums. And it was basically a story of them trying to find their footing while the entire world was watching.
So their self-titled debut in 2002, it was an absolute monster. You had all the power and the insane technical skill of the Rage guys, but now you had Cornell's soaring vocals on top instead of political rap. Now, the critics, they were kind of divided. Some said it felt a little off balance, almost like you were listening to two different bands at the same time. But here's the fascinating part. While the critics were debating the chemistry, the public, well, they had already decided. The album just skyrocketed to triple platinum status, giving us these massive timeless hits like a Stone and I Am the Highway. The people were definitely listening. Okay, fast forward 3 years to 2005, and they drop Out of Exile. And on this record, you can really hear Chris Cornell's melodic influence coming through much stronger. His smoother, more soulful style is totally front and center. But for a lot of people, the fusion still wasn't quite perfect. Some reviewers even called the mix of Cornell's melodies and Tom Morello's signature guitar wizardry, well, awkward at times. But, and this is the incredible part, that so-called awkward album, yeah, it went straight to #1 on the Billboard 200 chart. Straight to #1. So forget all that talk about artistic growing pains. Commercially, Audioslave was an absolute, undeniable juggernaut. They had clearly tapped into something massive, a sound that just resonated with millions of people, whether it was perfectly polished or not. And this really just paints a picture of their strange, fascinating reality at the time. I mean, the album went platinum. Their single, Be Yourself, was a top 40 radio anthem. They were playing on the world's biggest stages, at massive events like the Live 8 concert. I mean, by literally any metric you can think of, they were one of the biggest rock bands on the entire planet. But their success wasn't just about selling records and topping charts. No, they were becoming something more. A legitimate cultural force, a trailblazing force on the world stage, in a way that very, very few bands ever managed to do. And nothing, absolutely nothing proves this more than their historic concert in Havana, Cuba back in 2005. Now, this was a time of really strained political relations, and yet they became the first ever American rock band to play a massive, free outdoor show there. They performed for an estimated 70,000 ecstatic fans. It was just this incredible, groundbreaking moment of cultural diplomacy, and it's all captured on their Live in Cuba DVD.
It totally cemented their status as these global ambassadors for the power of rock music. So all of this, the massive commercial success, the global recognition, the artistic journey, it was all leading up to one final, powerful statement, their third and final studio album. This was the moment where the experiment finally paid off. It's where all the pieces just clicked into place and the formula was absolutely perfected.
On their 2006 album Revelations, Audioslave wasn't Rage plus Cornell anymore, and they weren't Cornell backed by Rage. They were simply Audioslave, a band with a unique, cohesive, and just unbelievably powerful sound that was all their own. The search for who they were, it was over.
So, what was the magic formula they finally found? Well, you still had Chris Cornell's vocals, as powerful and soaring as ever. Of course, the heavy, bone-crushing riffs were still there. But then Tom Morello started introducing these new, unexpected things. Funky, soul-inspired guitar riffs that just grooved and danced. And they perfectly complemented Cornell's melodies. It was this perfect, natural, effortless balance between that huge, bombastic arena rock sound and these really perceptive, introspective lyrics. This was the sound they had been searching for the whole time. And you know, there's probably no single lyric that sums up their entire incredible journey better than this one, from the song Original Fire. The original fire has died and gone, but the riot still lives on. It's just perfect. It's this powerful nod to their legendary pasts in Rage and Soundgarden. Yeah, those original fires were gone, but it's also this defiant statement that the spirit, the energy, the riot was still totally alive in this new extraordinary band. And here's a little piece of perfect poetic trivia for you. The only time they ever played that song live was at that legendary show in Cuba, bringing their whole story full circle. Audioslave might have been a short-lived experiment, but their legacy, their riot, it definitely lives on.